One of the things you learn when you lose your privacy is that you can't have intimacy without it. Intimacy is by definition exclusive. It is a relationship between a very small number, usually two people. You can't have an intimate DMV line or concert. Your bedroom, you hope, is intimate. And that's because not everyone's invited. So without privacy, there is no intimacy. People can't say what they really think. People are afraid that everyone can hear what they're saying, and so they don't say it, and after all, they don't think it. You don't need to beat people or shoot them to get them to comply. You only need to spy on them and then tell them that you're spying on them, and they will know that they have to constrain their own behavior. They will be so terrified and alone, so completely isolated, that after a while, they won't be capable of having revolutionary thoughts. They will accept whatever you tell them. So stripping people of their privacy is the key to enslaving them. Even Orwell couldn't have imagined the world that we live in now in the United States in 2026, where even driving to the countryside, much less taking the train to the countryside, is no escape from nonstop surveillance. Because cameras are everywhere. And cameras aren't simply recording you, they're listening to you and analyzing your biometrics, your gait, your face. There is almost, if you live in a metropolitan area of the United States, no place you can go from your bedroom to the grocery store to the sidewalk in front of your house or apartment where you're not being surveilled at all times, 24 hours a day. And who knows what's happening to the images and sounds those cameras are capturing, that data? We actually don't know. And there's really no legal safeguard in place to let us know or to protect us from the misuse of that information about us. So there are a lot of companies that provide this service. The biggest and certainly the most famous is called Flock Safety. The idea behind Flock Safety is police departments will use its product, its drones or its cameras affixed to poles in their towns to reduce crime. And from the perspective of the police department, it's a pretty good deal. And it's a good deal because it's a whole lot cheaper than police officers. Police officers are very expensive. It costs over $100,000 a year on average to employ a police officer. Over the course of an entire police career, through recruitment and training and sick days and of course salary and then retirement, it can cost $7 million to a city for a single police officer. But if you were to switch, if you were to automate the process, if you were to get a machine to do what people once did, it cost you about $2,500 under the Flock contract. So you can certainly see the incentive. So how exactly has this brand new, but already incredibly widespread phenomenon, Flock cameras, license plate readers, in virtually every city in the United States, what has it done to crime? Well, it has not eliminated it, despite what they may tell you. But one conclusion we can draw confidently is that the point of the license plate readers and the facial recognition software, which are integrated, probably not to keep you safe. So if you're looking for a shortcut to decode everything that you're hearing about almost anything, discount the part where they say it's good for you, because that is not a relevant component to the formula. Should we do this? Well, let's see. Does it save us money? Does it increase profit? Is it good for us? Those are the three main criteria. What it does to you and your family, kind of not on the list. It's not a variable in that equation. Here is the founder of Flock Safety, Garrett something. Doesn't look like he's even 40. This is Garrett, the billionaire Flock guy, describing how he feels about anyone who disagrees with his project. Watch.
Corporate wars, looking at citizen projects where citizens are concerned about the rise of Flock and Flock cameras going up everywhere and increased surveillance everywhere. Yeah. There's an organization called DFlock, who are semi-well-known now, I guess, if you're interested in this stuff, who take a fairly aggressive approach in terms of counting the number of cameras and having a Discord channel where they talk about potential activities to move against Flock and stop it expanding. What do you think of that organization and the way they go about their business?
Yeah, so I think there's really two groups of activists. You've got organizations like the ACLU and the EFF who take an above-board approach to fight for their point of view. And thankfully, we live in a beautifully democratic, capitalistic country where we can fight in court. And I have a lot of respect for those groups because they have reasonable debates and we follow the law. And then unfortunately, there's terroristic organizations like DFlock, whose primary motivation is chaos. They are closer to Antifa than they are anything else. And that I think is unfortunate because we don't want chaos, or I don't want chaos. I like law and order. I like a society that has a bedrock of safety.
It'd be interesting to know where the douchebag factory is that turns out billionaires in t-shirts who run our most powerful companies. Who's that guy? He's a billionaire. Where'd the money come from? Oh, from state and local governments. It's tax dollars. Mr. T-shirt guy, Garrett Langley or something. He just described a group called DFlock as a, quote, terroristic organization. Well, what's DFlock? Well, if that's the only knowledge you have of DFlock, you probably think it's, as he said, it's like Antifa. Guys in black masks spray painting things and beating people to the head with flagpoles and shooting bear spray into the faces of cops. Antifa, they want chaos. Well, actually, unlike Antifa, DFlock has a website. So you can just kind of go there and assess for yourself, what is DFlock? Ben Jordan has thought a lot about this, knows a lot about it, knows a lot of the details about where the data from these cameras are going, which is worth knowing. And he joins us now. Ben, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for the work that you've done on this. So why are you concerned about license plate readers, Flock cameras? I mean, we're told that, look, it's for your safety, okay? And unless you want to be a terrorist, you should probably shut up about it. And there's nothing to be worried about at all if you're not doing something wrong. So I'm not doing anything wrong. Why should I be worried about it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to be worried about it. One pushback I always get is people saying, I have nothing to hide. And I feel like that is one of the most inaccurate statements ever. But when somebody says that to me, I always ask them to hand me their phone and unlock it and let me go into the other room for a while. And just, why? Do you have something illegal on there? Let me look at it. But yeah, anybody who's ever been stalked, who's been falsely accused of a crime, anybody who's ever been hacked, who's had their identity stolen, they all have stuff to hide. And it's when those terrible things happen to you when you realize, oh, I actually have a lot to hide and this is really important. As far as the first thing that I always, when I talk to like a police chief or something like that, the first thing I always tell them is that this is a third-party tech startup. They're not even a public company. It's a private company that has venture capital investors, but one of which is on the hook for Cambridge Analytica, by the way. And they have one job, and that job is to make as much money as possible. So they're going to tell you whatever it is that you need to hear to put as many cameras in your community as possible. They're going to tell you that it helps solve crime, that it'll increase your clearance rates. And the fact is that they don't have any evidence of doing any of that. And I feel in most of the communities that I've visited, and I'm literally on the road right now visiting communities, talking to city council members and stuff like that. In most of these communities, the public feels like the license plate readers, specifically from Flock, are betraying the relationship that they have with police. They're actually violating that social contract where people expect privacy and they're not being given.
Well, I mean, if surveillance created safety, then prisons would be very safe, but they're very dangerous. So I guess that's obvious, right? Now that I think about it.
The thing that a lot of people also don't think about, one of my favorite analogies, and this is used by the ACLU often, is if you're driving somewhere and a cop pulls behind you at a stoplight, you immediately change the way you behave. You start, you might be really into a song you're listening to. Now you're distracted by the cop. You might be in a conversation. For some reason, the flow of that conversation changes, even if you've done nothing wrong. We all just have that weird feeling with this person who is able to, I don't know, handcuff us, pull us over, write us a ticket, shoot us, whatever they want to do. When that person's behind us and surveilling us and looking in and saying, oh, what's that guy up to? Is he up to no good? We start behaving differently. I've been out of pocket. I've been paying for polling to find out, how many people are for this, how many people are against this. And overwhelmingly, Americans are against it. And one thing that I find interesting is you're seeing a lot of people on both sides of the political aisle be against it at the same time, which it's like the only issue in America right now where everybody's kind of getting along and being like, yeah, we don't want that. We hate it. And I think that's really important.
Where do the images and the sounds go? Where does the data go?
So typically what happens with your standard flock camera, like the black ones that you see, they're called like Falcons, that's the model name of them. They will see a license plate, they'll take a picture, and then they'll send it to the flock servers where the police can access it. So if the police, let's say you had a brown car with a bumper sticker and maybe a broken window, the AI actually picks that up. And so not only your license plate, the police can just search brown car, broken window, and then they'll be able to find every single time that you've passed a camera. But it gets worse than that because they have something called a hot list, where they could put your license plate on a hot list, and then every single time that you pass a license plate, the police get a notification saying that this person is here, this person's here, this person's here. And they don't need a warrant to do this, which is the most staggering part, because it's just, this is no different than putting a GPS on somebody's car functionally if you have a lot of flock cameras around, and pinging somebody beyond one cell phone tower. What the Supreme Court had not that long ago actually decided that was unconstitutional. So I just don't see how this is. The truth is that all Flock has spent hundreds of millions, billions of dollars on their product and marketing, but their marketing has been towards police. And they have studies that they wrote themselves that they point to saying, look how good this is, look how much safer this makes your community, how much better it makes your job. They have conventions where they invite the police officers and give them freebies. And then there's also a really large revolving door effect, where if you even go down LinkedIn, go down like Flock employees, you'll find the head of communications happened to be a police officer in Dallas a year before, and he happened to be the person in the police department who signed the surveillance contracts or recommended the surveillance contracts. Same thing with city hall members, things like that. And so you have something that really, I call it corruption. I don't know if it's legally corruption, but a revolving door between government and private industry, to me, sounds a lot like corruption. So I think that's why you have this massive expansion. And that's why you have police saying, we need this, otherwise we can't do our job. And city council members saying, okay, well, we're going to have a quick little meeting and then vote this in before anybody hears about it.
It's very easy to see how military technology, and this is military technology, these weapons of war, could be used as tools of political repression. Let's say the war in Iran continues. This is not a partisan point, it's just an obvious observation. The war continues, the strait remains closed, we drain the SPR, and we have an actual energy crisis at that point, like an actual one. And the government says, well, we're instituting a work from home order. And we did that during COVID, we're doing it now. And a lot of people like me would be like, buzz off. I'm going where I want to go. It's America. Right. And then drones are deployed to make certain that the sheep are being herded correctly. Like, that's not a crazy scenario at all.
No. I mean, it's one of the most outrageous things that we've discovered. A friend of mine, Jason Hunyar, he lives in an Atlanta suburb, Dunwoody. He has been just volunteering his time. He's not a professional investigator. He's not a journalist. He's been volunteering his time, pulling audit reports through FOIA requests of what these things have been used for, where they're located, what they've been searching. And there's a place there called Marcus Jewish Community Center. It's a private, large community center that's kind of beloved by the community. And they have cameras on the wall there that aren't flock cameras. They're like the standard cameras you would have in any sort of business. And the community center said, okay, well, we're a little worried that there might be some sort of anti-Semitic attack. So we want to share our footage with police in case they need it, in case there's a shooting or something terrible happens. And by doing that, they shared it with Flock. So what Jason had discovered is that over 1,000 times, Flock employees viewed those cameras inside this private community center, including but not limited to the pool, the daycare center, the children's gymnastics room, and nobody had been arrested. Nobody had to answer any questions about it. In fact, they actually made it harder for Flock to collect an audit or to collect a record of who was looking at the camera internally from the company.
Wait, just to be clear, it was Flock employees who were not licensed law enforcement officers.
All grown men. Yes, all Flock employees, over 1,000 times, and they were all grown men. And they were looking at these cameras at the daycare center, the children's gymnastics room. And their defense to this was that it was a product demo for another client. And I'm thinking to myself, if I had a business and I wanted a Flock camera by the police department, and somebody pulled up a laptop and said, look how good this works, and then it was a children's gymnastics room, I would call the police, or hit them. I'm not sure what I would do, but that's an outrageous explanation. That's just delusional.
How many Flock employees were fired after that?
None, not one. They took down their LinkedIn though and deleted one of them was in a band and removed his band page on Facebook. So yeah, they pretty much got scrubbed from social media because I released a video about it on Instagram and it had made the news a little bit, and so they immediately just scrubbed their profiles.
Are there any laws governing what Flock, and Flock is not, of course, the only surveillance company out there? There are a lot, but are there laws governing what they can do with the data, with your data, pictures of you and your family?
In Illinois, maybe in California, there's some states that are starting to try and mimic data privacy laws that they have in like the EU or any other country, really. Like they have data privacy laws that are superior to ours right now. And the problem is that if it's only in one state, then they could just send it to a server in another state and then sell the data elsewhere. Flock claims to not sell your data, but I've literally seen PDF price sheets with an amount on how much they sell data for. So make sense of that.
Oh, so you think they're lying about not selling data?
It's almost as if they have a financial interest in lying to the public to get their company to IPO as quickly as possible.